Matt and I are joining you live here from Greentown Labs in Somerville, Massachusetts, which is the home of Raised Green. And we're excited to be here with all of you. So just to let folks know, this session will be recorded. So we will share the recording afterward, and you'll have an opportunity to go back and review it. Folks like to watch these afterward, and it's a great way to share the good work that's happening on the platform. So in June, there were more than 7,500 records set, temperature records in cities across the US. And don't have to let folks know this because I think we've all witnessed it, but there's a 1 in 1,000 heat dome that happened in the northeast or the northwest of the country that led to 121 degree records in British Columbia. Climate change is hitting every community across the country and every region of the world, and it's already also affecting every aspect of the economy. Clean drinking water supply is threatened by droughts and wildfires, and these temperatures make it harder and more expensive to heat and cool buildings. You're going to hear from some folks that are working to attack those problems today. And it's just a reminder of what we already knew, which is that the climate problem is already impacting everyone. And these impacts drive direct and indirect health implications for all of us, but particularly those that are being hit first and worst, who are under-resourced communities and those least able and most vulnerable to dealing with these problems. So the pandemic, meanwhile, has widened the wealth gap. Just between the time the pandemic started and now, there have been 5 million new millionaires in the world, up to 56 million globally now. And the richest 1% have increased their share of wealth during that time period to 45%. And so that concentration of wealth really undercuts our ability as a society to tackle the interlocking challenges of climate and justice and public health and wealth disparity. And the good part is that you and every one of us have something we can do about this. And about 5 years ago, the SEC, for the first time, made it possible for anyone and everyone to invest in private companies in the same way that the top 10% of Americans who make more than $250,000 a year have had for the better part of 70 years since the Securities Act passed. So this democratization is happening, and it's invigorating the industry of crowdfunding, and we're very excited to be a part of that, and specifically within that, to make it possible for anyone to create climate solutions and get them funded. We give tools to energy developers, solar developers, and climate tech companies to finance their projects. We give them templates to get those projects structured into securities offerings. We provide a network of enterprise partners to work with those developers, and we allow them to raise up to $5 million per project per year through regulation crowdfunding so that everyone can invest, even as little as $100 into those. And really, that's where you come in. So 2 weeks ago, US Senate and the White House announced the bipartisan infrastructure package that would have sweeping changes and inject $1.2 trillion into the US economy to solve our crumbling roads and bridges, among other clean energy initiatives. And just yesterday, the Senate and the White House also announced a plan to pass a $3.5 trillion budget reconciliation deal, which has sweeping implications for new tax credits, new clean energy acceleration, a civilian climate corps, among other things. But these are just plans, and it's going to be a long time before these plans actually turn into anything that affects everyone day to day. But every time one of you invests and every time one of these projects gets done, we're taking incremental steps towards solving these problems right now and putting solutions into play. So that's the context. We are thrilled to have you all on today. As a reminder, the session's being recorded, and we're looking forward to having you meet some of those originators who are making offerings today on our marketplace. Again, joining you live from Greentown Labs. And now I'd like to introduce our Chief Operating Officer and my co-founder here at Raise Green, Matt Moroney, who will be our MC for the day.
Thank you, Franz, for that introduction and the context setting. Welcome again, everyone. We're delighted to have you, so let's get going. Today, each issuer will share details about their investment opportunity. It's a chance for you to hear directly from the issuers, as well as ask them questions. First, let's start off with some logistics and background for what to expect today. Raise Green is a US funding portal based in Greentown Labs in Boston, Massachusetts, and we're licensed with FINRA and the Securities and Exchange Commission to sell private exempt securities. We are the leading US platform focused on impact investing and ESG in the inclusive investing and crowdfunding industry. We've built software with IBM for rapid project creation, think GitHub for companies, and McDonald's for solar. We've been in business for 3 years, financed almost $2 million in transactions through 6 different offerings in the last year. And we bring investors and companies and talent together on our marketplace. And today you're going to hear from 3 of these companies today. As a funding portal, we do due diligence on each one of the offerings. However, we do not provide tax, accounting, legal, or financial advice. And we encourage you to review the materials, do your own research, seek your own counsel, and talk to your family before making an investment decision. But today isn't about us, it's about you and the companies raising money on our marketplace. Each company will speak for roughly 7 minutes, and we'll ask questions from the audience for 5 minutes. If you have a question and we didn't have a chance to offer it, please post it to the chat. We'll do our best to get to it today. And if not, we'll post it on the forum on their offering pages so you can go back and look at it there. We'll also be launching a few polls. You've seen a few. So thank you for your feedback. It helps us provide better offerings for you and for the planet as a whole. So on that note, and without any further ado, I'd like to introduce our first presenter today. Elizabeth Klandos is the co-founder and CEO of Ola Filter Group, working to end water poverty in the developing world with her co-founders Teresa Smith and Monica Goforth. Welcome, Elizabeth. We're thrilled to have you today.
Thank you. Thank you, Franz. Thank you, Matt. You can hear me okay?
We can hear you just well. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So, as Matt said, just close that up. I'm Elizabeth Klandos. I'm CEO of Ola Filter, and we make affordable water filters for people in developing countries. I'll begin with an overview of our offering. There are 2 billion working poor consumers that drink contaminated tap water. These filters cost a week's wage. They're only available in urban centers, and they aren't meeting local demand. And humanitarian aid organizations struggle with the high costs and difficult logistics associated with these filters. And we've seen this countless times during our 20 years working in developing countries. This is the Ola filter. It costs $19. It's half the price of other filters on the market, and it attaches directly to your faucet. Our price fits the budgets of working poor consumers. And our compact size allows for humanitarian aid organizations to purchase and ship filters in bulk. With a total market of 2 billion people, we've built a manufacturing and distribution model that scales. To reach millions of people, we're targeting bulk sales to retailers, aid organizations, and governments, optimizing customer acquisition costs and reaching more people faster. And now's the right time to enter the market. There's been a recent proliferation of aid programs focused on water. There are more than 8,000 aid organizations in Guatemala alone. And our leads list includes over 350 large NGOs working in water globally. And governments such as Fiji, Liberia, and Mexico are currently purchasing water filters. Importantly, income growth in developing countries means that consumers have more money to invest in their own health. We're a 100% women-founded triple bottom line social business. We met in 2019 while working on solar power and social enterprises in Guatemala. We were struck by the lack of water filters and we began looking for solutions. We're headquartered in Guatemala because of its proximity to developing countries, its cost-effective material and labor pricing, and because of our team's deep networks within the country. And because of those networks, we have 2,200 filters pre-ordered and we haven't begun advertising. Ola Filter is an immediate, sustainable, and scalable solution to water poverty. I founded a design studio and I led the growth of 3 Guatemalan social enterprises. Teresa, our CTO, brings 20 years as a prototype and design engineer at Toyota. And Monica brings 15 years in international development, including 8 years in Guatemala, creating rural distribution pathways for solar power. Now I'll address the securities. Our raise is open through July 31st, and we've currently raised over $100,000. And with $250,000, we can build high volume production tooling in order to hit the market on a really large scale. We're offering a SAFE, which is future equity that converts to shares in conjunction with a defined conversion event. Investors today benefit from a $5 million valuation cap and a 20% discount at time of conversion. Finally, our use of proceeds and impact. This raise will fund marketing, growing our team, and our injection molding tooling so we can hit the market this fall. In 2022, we aim to secure partnerships with 75 aid organizations and build retail distribution partnerships throughout Central America to hit our target of millions of sales in the coming years. And for those millions of families that will buy the Ola filter, filtering at home will slash their daily expenditures, improve their health, and reduce plastic waste. And aid organizations will be able to scale their impact globally. And now I want to share a prototype of the Ola filter. So here we are. So here's the Ola filter. It attaches directly to the faucet that's found in low-income households throughout the developing world. The main body stays attached to the faucet so that this thing can be used for household chores that don't require filtered water. And then to clean the Ola filter, and this is our patent pending design, you simply flip the Ola filter, reattach it, flush it through with water. So you don't need any replacement parts. So this is a 3D print, hence the black color. But these filters are landing in Guatemala today so that we can field test with Monica. And so we can get really good info on design features such as color choice, but really see how it's used in the field. So with that, I will open up to questions.
Great, thank you for your presentation, Elizabeth. I guess my first, if I'll just take an opportunity to ask a question while they're queuing up. When can I get one?
Hopefully you'll get one by the end of the year. So what we're doing is obviously for every investor on Raise Green, you'll also get an Ola filter. And we're really excited about that.
Fantastic. And can you give us any idea? I mean, it seems like such a massive problem. We're talking billions of people without clean water, and you're tackling it in a very strategic, geographically focused way. What kind of production volume, how many filters do you expect to be creating as a result of your crowdfunding raise on Raise Green?
So with our crowdfunding raise at the 250, we wanted to be on the conservative side of our sales targets. So we're looking at with the funding from this raise, we would hit 30,000, 50,000, 120, 200, and then 1 million. But we're also going to create the capacity so we can just get millions of these off the assembly line and into people's homes.
Fantastic.
Awesome. Just as a reminder, folks, you can ask questions either in the chat or in the question function. please feel free to put them in there. Elizabeth, one thing that I find just so compelling about what you're doing is the mission. And so I wonder if you might maybe expand a little bit on the story of how you and Monica and Teresa came to arrive at this mission, and what drives you on a day-to-day basis.
Mm-hmm. So as I spoke to you before, we met in Guatemala while working on projects, and we have a background in economic development. And because of that background in economic development, there's two ways for economic growth. You either increase your income or you reduce your expenditures. And seeing that there was a high expenditure for low-income people on bottled water, we began looking for solutions. And we both have experience with these other water filters that I showed in the slide, both from NGO perspectives, and I come from a design perspective. So it was really difficult to see these filters put into the field that weren't being utilized because of their cost prohibitiveness, because of design features. So we really worked backwards from the user, and the user being the end user, and then also from an NGO perspective, so we could hit all of those pain points.
Fantastic. It looks like we went from a drought of questions to a roaring flood. So let's start, and maybe we can have brief answers to hit these 5, and then move on to the next panel. So what is the anticipated life of an OLA filter, and is it recyclable at the end of its use?
Yes. So we're targeting to have a lifespan of 5 years. And the current filters on the market have a lifespan of 2 years. So that's really important in terms of last mile logistics. We need things that are really durable. Inside of the filter is a tightly bundled loop of hollow fiber casing, hollow fiber membranes, and that's what blocks protozoa, bacteria, and cysts, which cause waterborne diseases. The filter can be recycled by simply opening this up, tossing the filter membrane, and then the rest of the filter can be recycled.
Great. Daniel Higby asked what the filter medium was. Is it a charcoal mesh? I think that answered his question as well. Felix says, great mission, OLA filter. Since investors would be getting shares, convertible equity via the SAFE, how do you expect to eventually repay the investors? Dividend, getting bought out, IPO?
Mm-hmm. So our mission is to solve water poverty globally. This is not the 3 of us. There are so many organizations working in this space right now. And so what we're really looking at is prove out this product, like absolutely push millions of these into homes. And then whenever we reach the point that we've reached our capacity, it would be to be acquired by a mission aligned company so that that already have established distribution networks, so we can scale this globally. And we're also looking at investor or founder buyback of investors as well, if that doesn't come out. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. And there's multiple questions here continuing on the thread of what does clean water actually mean. You mentioned microbial contaminants. Are there any other contaminants removed by the filter, particulate, chemical? What type of purity can we expect?
So we get a log 6 of removal for bacteria, protozoa, and cysts. And like I said before, with our MVP, we're targeting the causes of morbidity and mortality globally. That said, and there was a prior comment regarding carbon filter, we are looking at creating products in the future, and we are looking in the pipeline to have a carbon-free filter, and that would deal with arsenic, lead, and sediment. Now, in developing countries, because they're not industrialized countries, arsenic and lead are not the problem that you hear when you hear Flint, Michigan. So the real red alarms are those the protozoa that causes waterborne diseases.
Thank you. And one last short question before moving on. How does the size, that is the form factor, compare to other products on the market? I mean, I could imagine not only this would be applicable in homes in Guatemala, but maybe boats and RVs. And how does it physically compare to some of the other things like Brita filters, for example?
Okay, so we're 1.5 by 3 inches tall, and that's really important because we come from last mile distribution for solar power. We throw things on tuk-tuks and the back of scooters. We understand how hard it is to reach the last mile in developing countries. So our filter, because of the size, we can fit 80 filters in the box that would fit one of those bucket filters. And that's really important for NGOs logistically, and it's also really important because of the price of shipping. So we can add value on that end.
Thank you, Elizabeth, for your presentation and your extremely competent and informative answers. I know I learned a lot today, and I'm just excited about you and your team and the impact that you'll have. So thank you. Our next presenter, as well as we're queuing up some questions during the switch. Our next presenter is Cullen Kasunik, CFO of Block Power LLC and managing member of Block Power Energy Services 3 LLC. Block Power Energy Services 3 LLC is taking indications of interest in a second potential offering under regulation crowdfunding, given their success of their recent crowdfunding campaign. No money or other consideration is being solicited, and if any money is sent in response, will not be accepted. No offer to buy the securities can be accepted, and no part of the purchase price can be received until the offering statement is filed through Raise Green. No investment or obligation is required to indicate your interest, and those who indicate interest will receive notification if an offering goes live. And with that disclaimer, we'll now welcome Cullen to the stage. I see Cullen's presentation, but I think you are the phrase of the year.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for having me on the call, Franz, Matt, and great to get a chance to talk with everyone about what we're doing at Block Power. And yes, we just came off a successful crowdfunding raise where we had a $1 million cap, which we just about hit, which we did hit. And now we are doing an indication of interest offering. Moving on to the presentation itself, a bit about Block Power. We are a minority-owned company, founded in 2014. Our founder came from DOE and the Obama campaign and really saw that there was a big barrier to getting energy efficiency implemented at small and medium-sized buildings, and in particular in low-income communities. The company started out doing a lot of oil to gas retrofits and LED retrofits, but now we really embrace full building electrification, right? Getting folks completely off of fossil fuels. And our company mission is really about bringing this climate improvement and energy efficiency improvement to everybody, right? So climate justice is a key part of what we do. To do this, we built a tech platform, and we've developed deep government and utility relationships to be able to get out there, and community relationships as well, to get into the communities and really work with the building owners. So really, though, it started with a problem that we saw, which was people want to do energy efficiency. These buildings are, right, there's 5 million medium-sized buildings across the United States, and buildings contribute about 40% to US global greenhouse gas emissions. And so they're not easy to get to, though. They're not easy to touch. Why? Because property owners have to be interested in the first place. Then they have to hire up to 12 parties and coordinate everything. And they're just, it's too complicated, it's too costly. So we're putting ourselves in the middle of this whole thing and providing property owners with turnkey energy efficiency retrofits, including engineering, construction contracting. We arrange the financing, we arrange the incentives, we arrange government and utility relationships. And in fact, that's what we're talking about here today with the raise. Any money that would go in through an investment round with us would be going directly to projects, right? This is capital that we're testing your interest on to go into specific building projects in targeted communities, many of them low or moderate income, to improve the building stock and infrastructure. So how do we do this, though? We've set up a system with technology where we can pre-screen buildings remotely, and then we can build a scope of work for what type of retrofits and upgrades we can do remotely as well. This takes the place of $25,000 to $100,000 building energy audits. Then we've developed a no money down financing option so that building owners can access these building retrofits and then pay as they save. So we really try to target customers having no net extra out-of-pocket costs. They pay what they paid for energy before, but they get the retrofit and they're set up with us for a 15-year contract where we also take care of the equipment. So we've built quite a leadership team. As I mentioned, our CEO, Danelle, was on the Obama campaign and worked with the Department of Energy on building issues. Keith was involved with many other energy startups, as well as being a leader of the Democratic Party. Grace was high-level positions at Mosaic and Sunrun, both organizations that share very similar business models and missions. And I have spent the last 10 years working on bringing energy efficiency, solar, and renewable energy technologies up the adoption curve using financing. So what are we offering? We're offering a $100 minimum investment. We're targeting a minimum goal of 25,000 and a maximum goal of $1 million again. Again, this is an indication of interest. And we are up and live on the platform now and have been soliciting interest for some time. The return on this is 5.5% potentially, and for a 12-year fully amortizing payback. So how will we use the proceeds? As I mentioned before, all the proceeds will be invested back into projects, which will then generate a return. We have 15-year contracts with customers, building owner customers. We will take the cash flow from those long-term lease contracts with the customers and use it to repay the debt. The money, however, will go to installing LEDs, air source heat pumps, monitoring systems, control systems, potentially solar energy, car charging, or storage systems. So the entity itself has $0 fixed costs. The only thing that comes back is the customer's payments, and we use that to cover the debt service to you and the operating costs and the profit to Block Power for going out and developing these projects. So in the end, our impact, we believe we can mitigate greenhouse gas impacts and emissions across the United States, in particular in disadvantaged communities, low-income communities, communities of color, and other areas that generally cannot be touched by renewable energy, clean tech, and energy efficiency technologies.
Thank you, Colin. And important work as well. We have a few questions, starting with Suzanne Kim. How do you solve the problem that every single building is unique? Different construction, different CapEx needs, different permits, et cetera.
That's a great question. We've built a building database that characterizes buildings by certain common characteristics, such as height, age, square footage, number of apartments, usage type, and we're able to use this to draw inferences about the buildings. So if you went in and did a specific energy audit that could cost thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars, you can really understand every particular nuance about the building. But what we can do is, without having to do that, understand to about 80% accuracy what type of energy efficiency improvements should be done there, what type of savings will be achieved. And then this is enough to really go through a whole level of pre-screening, where if you're going under a different business model, you would have to go to every building, and then a lot of those people will say no. In this case, we do it all remotely, and then the folks who say yes, we go and do that extra last 20% in person, right? And so it enables us to reduce the customer acquisition cost pretty dramatically. And it's really a statistical machine learning based approach to energy efficiency.
Thank you. We have some additional questions, one from Oliver Jacob. I read you had some financing with Goldman Sachs. Can you comment on how
Correct.
this relates and augments that source of capital?
Sure. So in two ways, the financing with Goldman Sachs is pretty specifically defined to a certain business type of multifamily in a certain geography in New York City. So on one standpoint, the capital raised here enables us to go nationally to other areas besides New York City, which is very important consideration. And in addition, there is the ability to utilize this capital to complete the capital stack with any of the Goldman Sachs projects. So they will only advance 80% of the project cost. We need to find the remaining 20% from somewhere. And so being able to utilize this capital through crowdfunding to complete that allows us to get the project done, right? And it allows us to do more projects with the limited development capital that we would otherwise have.
Awesome, and a really pioneering use of blended finance there with different types of capital sources in stack, Colin. We have two questions actually. Speaking of expanding out of New York City, how do you plan to prioritize new markets and how and when will that happen?
Sure. We actually have some other new markets prioritized right now: Washington, D.C., the Bay Area of California, and some areas in Massachusetts and Connecticut. This is really done by a couple of things. It is based on where project costs are lower. It is based on where incentives are higher. And it's based on essentially a spark spread where we look for places where natural gas is expensive and electricity is cheap. Because if we can come in and electrify and bring people off of an expensive fuel source that is also a fossil fuel, then we have a great opportunity to show them very strong savings. The policy support is not to be underestimated either. New York City and New York State in particular, New York State more broadly than New York City is an amazing opportunity. They all have, and the other locations I mentioned, all have very strong policy support. And we are looking at, in fact, working municipality by municipality for their support, where they would do potentially an electrify or a solarized type campaign.
Awesome use of channel partners there. I think there's a lot of opportunity with the municipalities. We have two more questions. You're welcome, Donna. Does every project involve a maintenance contract? For example, if the only retrofit is installing LED bulbs, how is revenue generated within 12 years?
Not every contract involves a maintenance. Not every contract involves maintenance. If we only install LEDs, which is not a common thing for us to do right now. Usually we have a pretty solid package of HVAC improvements with monitoring and controls and a bit of insulation, air sealing, water measures. But we actually are looking at some projects where it is just LEDs. And in those cases, we don't need to include the maintenance. We just reduce the price to the customer. And it becomes more of what we would call a capital lease structure, where the customer leases to own, versus the way that we think of it generally under an operating lease structure is we are sort of the owner and the operator, much like someone who owns a rental building, an apartment building might do.
Okay, we have 3 more questions, but we're at time, so we'll post the rest on the forum after we ask this one. From Sean McGouty. What's the most common energy efficiency upgrades you perform? And how many projects can you do with $1 million?
Sure. So the most common energy efficiency upgrade we're doing right now is a conversion from an oil boiler or a gas boiler to an air source heat pump. An air source heat pump is effectively an air conditioner that can run both forwards and backwards. It pumps the heat out of the place when you want your apartment cooler, and it pumps it in when you want it warmer. This is the most common one we're doing. As I mentioned before, we generally will attach that to some other energy saving measures and what we'll call building envelope measures, like the insulation and air sealing. And so with $1 million of these, we can do, if we're funding the projects fully, we can do about 40 single family homes or about 10 family homes.
Excellent, thank you. We have additional questions on when you could actually make an investment. This is just an IOI, and as even someone who has an apartment in New York City, how can they sign up? We'll copy these questions onto the forum, and you can see answers there. So thank you for your participation. Oh.
I will say one thing briefly. If you have a building and are interested, you can go to the Block Power website. There's a little button on the top that allows you to check your building out.
A true entrepreneur. Thanks.
Awesome. Yeah, I just also wanted to pipe in to mention that for indications of interest, we've actually asked all of the issuers that are conducting indications of interest to not speak to the timing of a potential future offering, to avoid making any forward-looking statements that might jeopardize that offering. So appreciate your patience with that. If you want to ask questions directly following up on this, you can go to the forum or the offering page on the marketplace at raisegreen.com, and you can ask those questions directly.
Great. Thank you, Colin. Pleasure as
Thank you.
always. As we're launching the next poll, we will introduce Rick Sellers, CEO and founder of Circular Fuels LLC, a circular economy company focused on baseload clean energy through anaerobic digestion. Now for the exciting disclosure announcement that I have to read for all indications of interest as recommended by the Securities and Exchange Commission, as well as our counsel. Thank you for your patience. Circular Fuels is taking indications of interest in a potential offering under regulation crowdfunding. No money or other consideration is being solicited, and if sent in response, will not be accepted. No offer to buy the securities can be accepted, and no part of the purchase price can be received until the offering statement is filed through Raise Green. No investment or obligation is required to indicate your interest. Those who indicate interest will receive notification if the offering goes live. Rick, welcome to the stage. We're thrilled to have you.
Thanks, Matt, and thanks to all of you for your commitment to ethical and responsible investing. In the next few minutes, I'd like to tell you about our clean energy project on Barbados and why I'm so excited about it. Also, how it demonstrates sustainable circular principles. You might be asking yourself, why would I be interested in an AD project on Barbados? What's AD anyway? What do circles have to do with it? How might supporting this project contribute to my investment goals? Let me try to explain. Just before COVID struck, I was contacted by the owner of the largest distillery on Barbados, a guy who I knew from my time at the International Energy Agency, where I was creating their clean energy program. He asked me if I could develop a project to take his distillery waste and convert it into the heat he needed to run his distillery. He currently pumps the waste into the ocean, a practice approved by health authorities because it's organic, but costing him a lot of money. A practice that is nice for feeding the fish, but he thought could be a lost opportunity. On top of that, he's currently spending $3.6 million a year to burn number 6 bunker fuel and needs to eliminate using fossil fuels completely to comply with the government policy to eliminate CO2. The approach we took was to search for other waste materials and consider how to organize them for the maximum benefit of the distillery and the island. The solution is an anaerobic digester, AD, with which we will take some of the most problematic organic waste streams on the island, generate about 5 megawatts of baseload green electricity, produce all the heat needed by the distillery, and yield fertilizer, both solid and liquid. This will allow the distillery to claim that it's compliant with the government's CO2 neutral goal, will save the island about $20 million a year in avoided fossil fuel imports, help the island better manage its waste streams, and delay expanding the landfill, rejuvenate agriculture, replenish the water table, and create about 65 new jobs. This is at the heart of a circular economy. I formed Circular Fuels last year to bring my 35 years of experience in clean energy together with the emerging practices of sustainable circular economy. This framework enhances our understanding of repurposing materials and waste and applies particularly well to AD projects. We have additional clean energy projects underway in the Caribbean and in the US. I've put together a great team, including Dr. Nikolai Holder, a biochemist on the faculty of the University of the West Indies in Barbados, who specializes in AD feedstocks and who has built numerous small AD plants, and Brian Lee Chandler, our local project and logistics manager. We're supported by John Forcier with his 35 years as a professional bioenergy engineer, and Tim Kelly, a very experienced clean energy financial advisor, Jonathan Estes, our social media guru. The total interest that we're seeking is $150,000, of which about $50,000 will be used to get the initial paperwork submitted to the planning authority for the building permit, ultimately the building permit, and $100,000 will be used to de-risk the project to make it more appealing to an investor. This work is all origination a stage often called pre-development. Our strategy is to secure all the key commitments needed to confirm the viability of the project and then sell the SPV with its assets to an investor with a big enough balance sheet to develop and build the project and then sell it to local Barbadian interests. We are in discussions with 3 such technology companies, and the ones that can deal with vinasse are actually rare. They're few and far between. By the way, the window to submit your interest closes at midnight tonight. After working for over a year and throughout the pandemic, we're well along in securing the soft commitments that we need to push pre-development over the top. We've already gotten the MOUs for the necessary feedstocks, as well as the sale of the heat. We're currently negotiating the site lease option agreement and have gotten a letter from the utility assuring us we can interconnect to the grid at Spring Garden. What remains are such things as the legal and regulatory study that will allow us to update the pro forma, the appraisal of the site, the development sequence as determined by the planning authority, and incorporating the SPV. Our key milestones start with the submission to the planning authority to get in the queue, and the other steps leading to a successful negotiation with the investor. If I could leave you with just one thought, it would be that we are arranging a carefully integrated, complex solution that simultaneously solves substantial cost, waste, and branding challenges for the distillery and connects them to solutions for many intractable problems on the island. Through this, we will model resilient strategies that will strengthen the local economy as it struggles with climate change and resource efficiency. I thank you for your attention and interest, and I welcome your questions.
Thank you, Rick, for the presentation. We'll start off with one of our own questions. Why do you feel, I mean, it seems like such a no-brainer to have anaerobic digestion on an island. Why is this not more common in the Caribbean?
It is actually quite common in the Caribbean. It's just not very common with regard to the use of vinasse, the waste material from a distillery. There are 2 or 3 examples of distilleries in the Caribbean region that are using this feedstock. And frankly, the success rate of them has been relatively poor. There are a couple of failed projects that have given AD a bad name in the distillery community. But there are now enough projects globally that are using anaerobic digestion with vinasse that we believe it can be a success. And the 3 companies that we're talking to have proven the success of being able to use that feedstock.
Great. It looks like we have a question here from Andy Kerr. What is the source of revenue to repay the $150,000 project? You say when you sell the entire project to a bigger firm, yet you are paying interest and returning principal during the years?
Yeah, the way we anticipate this working is that we're raising development debt to be used in this early stage of pre-development to get us to a place where the investor is going to buy the project company and the MOUs and other agreements that we will have invested in the project company. When the investor pays for the project company, we will retire the debt. We will pay back the debt and the interest on the debt.
And I think a question in the similar vein from Chris. Rick, you are describing this as a debt offering, but isn't it really a fully at-risk equity investment? If the project is not sold, what assets or cash flows stand behind the debt?
I'm not a lawyer, and I am not comfortable in trying to determine the use of terms. What I would say is, yes, it is at risk. It's early stage development, and it is at risk. But it's not an ownership in the project. It really, is a debt to my company, Circular Fuels, which will be transferred to the SPV so that it'll be first in line to be repaid on the event of the sale of the project company.
Okay, and just to clarify the second portion of the question, in terms of assets or cash flows behind the development themselves, are there any assets or cash flows that stand behind the debt if the project is not sold?
No, at this point, it's the project company that is the asset.
Okay.
Got it. Great, thank you, Rick. There are no other questions. Oh, it looks like one more question just popped in. I was going to ask one, but I'll read this one out. When do you anticipate selling the assets?
Our target for selling the asset is that if we're able to conclude the fundraise, it would be within 6 months of the funds being raised. I can't give you a calendar date. I can give you a kind of schedule of work, which is about 6 months.
Great. And we had one question. Okay. There's some additional questions. Please do take them to the forum. One I can answer right away. How do you invest by tonight? You cannot invest. You can indicate your interest in investing tonight on raisegreen.com. Franz will detail that process at the end of the event. I'd like to give, in order to stay on time, I know we have about 12 minutes left, and I'm aiming to get you all back a few minutes early, but I'd like to actually first bring all of the presenters on stage. So if you wouldn't mind stopping sharing and we can get all the presenters there. Huge virtual round of applause to our presenters. Thank you so much for taking the time to present and take questions. It really is kind of a nerve-wracking thing for us as human beings, so thank you. I would actually, now that we have everyone together, I'd like to just give one question to the panel as a whole. In the audience of 40 plus people, I see at least 5 who we've spoken to about creating a project on Raise Green. Do you have any, now that you've been through the process with us, what kind of battle scars, lessons learned would you be willing to share with the audience who is considering starting a project with us? Rick, do you want to go first?
Sure. I think the thing that I've learned is really to be focused on learning about and anticipating the requirements of crowdfunding. Some of the things that you're required to do are not obvious when you're working from the ground up on an entrepreneurial activity. Are you hearing me, Matt? I see you talking.
Yeah.
We
Yes.
can hear you, yep.
Okay. And I think that was probably the biggest thing, is pay attention to what you're being asked to provide, because it's not necessarily what you would be working on in order to progress your project.
Good advice. Elizabeth.
Well, first, we couldn't think of a better partner than Raise Green. I do think that budget a little more time for your Form C. But that said, we did walk away thinking, well, just being so much more confident, because there is not a question an investor could ask us that Jackie didn't ask us 3 times. So that was a really good, really great for us as a seed stage business. And then just market.
Thank you. Colin. Up.
You're on mute.
A few things. One, especially if you have a business that's already operating that you're working on, start your reviewed financials and audits early, very early. Besides that, also start marketing, not marketing, but building up a social media presence that will really help. LinkedIn is very strong, not just Twitter, not just any other ones you would think of, but LinkedIn is very strong for this. And having a good community and folks to discuss things with there is good. And then let Raise Green help you. They helped us so much, and they are so knowledgeable about the whole process that it just really got us to where we were, which was a big success, and where we are going now, which I think is a big success too.
Well, thank you. for the wise words and sharing your lessons learned. We really do see Raise Green as a collective where issuers become investors, investors become issuers, and issuers help other issuers. So thank you for sharing. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Franz here to close us out.
Wonderful. Well, thank you all again, Elizabeth, Rick, Cullen, and to your fantastic teams that you work with on a daily basis to make what you do possible. You really are the heroes of the Raise Green story. You embody what we want to see more of, projects getting done, bringing inclusive investment into those projects. And for folks listening who are considering expressing an indication of interest or an investment, there's no better time to put your money to work. And for those that are considering creating a project or financing your company using our platform, we are here to help you create your own green job or continue expanding the reach and impact of your business. As a couple reminders, so if you had a question that didn't get answered today, or you get a question that pops into your mind after today, please do go on marketplace.raisegreen.com. You can find the offering pages of each of these offerings, and you can write in the forum your question and have it answered directly by one of these three companies. In addition, we are standing by to work with you to create a project or answer questions if you have them about how the investing process works. We enable you to create an investor account for free by going onto the marketplace. It takes just a short period of time. You will go through a Know Your Customer and anti-money laundering check. We're an SEC and FINRA compliant business, as Matt helpfully reminds us, and we take that very seriously. So the webinar that we've recorded here today will be sent out to all the participants following this, and it will also be posted on our website where we have helpful information about the risks involved in investing, as well as how to actually go through the process. So just on a parting note, we also have a great pipeline of new projects that are working their way through the plumbing of the Raise Green onboarding system. So please stay tuned. You can sign up for our newsletter to get the latest information. That's also available on raisegreen.com. And we're excited to also share that we will be joining the Partnership for Carbon Accounting for Financials to provide even additional impact reporting as it relates to the projects that come forward on our marketplace. Lastly, and most perhaps forward-looking, is that we will be holding another Investor Day in September. So mark your calendars, September 16th, 2021. We're excited to share the next batch of offerings and indications of interest with you at that time. But very thankful for you all spending some time with us today, and really looking forward to supporting these three businesses as they go on and do amazing things in the future. So can't thank you enough for your time. And yeah, happy Investor Day, everyone.
Thank you, and have a wonderful afternoon.
Thanks much. Over and out.